Welcome back to the Relationships Made Simple podcast for men with me, Bryce Bauer. Today I am with Mike Elliott. He is a relationship coach who's committed to helping high performing men create the relationships they really want. How's it going, Mike?
Yeah, that's good, Bryce. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, we are meeting for the first time. We chatted for a few minutes, but I'm really excited to get to know Mike and dive into his wisdom. So, is there anything you want to say about you as far as intro goes, or do you want me to launch into a question, Mike?
Yeah, for anyone listening, my imagining is a lot of your audience is going to be new to me and my work. And I think it's always helpful to hear where a person's coming from. And so for me, I used to be a trades guy, plumber, gas fitter, and lived the life that I was sold to live and attracted a beautiful wife. I followed the American dream, even though I'm in Canada. I got the good paying job. I got the beautiful wife. I made really good money. Brand new truck in their driveway, jet boat, and theater room, and just all the things that I was sold would make me happy. And I was miserable. I was depressed. I didn't even know life that I was living. I didn't even have the concept of blind spots or shadow work. I had no idea. None of this was modeled. And that led to a really big divorce, brought me down to my knees, and it brought me through my dark night of the soul, my initiation as a man. And I share that because so many men that are on podcasts like this, listening and taking in information, they're in a place of, I want to learn more. I want to know more, but it's hard to relate with some of these people like the Gottmans or, people who have been doing this for decades. But I used to be a trades guy, and now I get to use my God-given gift serving people to live the relationship of their life and live if they were meant to. And that happened through my process of initiation. So this isn't just information learned in books. This is lived life. And I think that's important. What we get to talk about, Bryce, is our lived life, the true embodied experience. Because if it's not that, it's not helpful.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm glad that we are going to focus on being pretty personal in this podcast. Recently, I heard someone talk about the difference between a mentor and a coach. And like a coach is someone who has the information and can give you the information, but a mentor is someone who's been there, who has what you want, and can tell you not only the information, but has the personal receipts to back it up. So, yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you, Mike. So I'm curious about what you offer right now. And you also told me just a few minutes ago that you work with your wife. So what's your business and what are you guys up to? What do you do?
Yeah, so Courtney is my partner. We have our son Cedar, and this is the year that we're actually going to conceive our second. So we're really living relationship. We live what we call evolutionary relationship, which to define it is using the medium of our relationship for our own awakening. And we believe that's the most rewarding place to be, is understanding that the medium of the relationship is for our own awakening, our own evolution. And so what Courtney and I do is we have for 4 years now, we've had a podcast called The Sacred We. It was called Together, and we're in the rebranding of it right now. It's The Sacred We, which is the very essence of what has created the biggest shifts for the couples that we work with. So our podcast is what we do. We've supported couples in what we call 2-to-2 couples containers for the last few years. So we directly support a couple from the resource of our coupleship, which we've noticed, people who've gone to couples therapy with a one therapist, it can be helpful, but it's a whole nother level having the masculine and feminine in the room, relating with each other in service to the relationship. And that's where we really discovered on a deeper level, this is everything we're here for. Allowing the love that we're cultivating in the practices that we live by, teaching it and guiding other couples into it. Like you talked about, the mentorship. And then that evolved into something that's called the evolutionary relationship, the initiation. It's our signature program where we support couples through this arc of principles that highlight the sacred we, and then we show up every other week to support couples through the experience of evolutionary relationship, not just information,
Uh-huh.
because so many of us, we know in our head what to do or
Right.
what we should be doing, but it doesn't happen if it's not embodied. So we've created the container where you do the embodiment practices to give the couples the felt sense of, oh, this is what it's about. Oh, this is why we keep circulating in the same old pattern or clunky place. And, we bring them into something new and different because they need to be modeled the same thing we were modeled that brought us into this. Like, wait a minute. Well, of course we can't do this. Of course it's hard because that's not what mom and dad did. That's not how they related. What we're wanting isn't what we were around. So how do you do this?
Right.
And so,
Right.
and so that's what we do. And it's the two of us. And then that's also split me off. And, the work that I do with individuals is I work with high performing men who have it all on paper outside. Everyone else would say about them how amazing they are and they've got everything together, but secretly, if you ask them inside, they're broken, lost, scared, alone because they aren't fully connected to themselves and they can't seem to satisfy their partner, and it's so defeating.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with them to really help move through the process of initiation, which I call the initiated man, and I use a method called relational authority. And that method is the thing that brings them into what I also call gentle power. I believe every man is here to discover his gentle power. Strong back, soft front, open heart, strong back, open front. And if a man learns how to embody that, everything that he's wanting, comes to fruition. Because if a man just keeps doing what he is programmed to do and it's overuse his mind and just function from a place of logic, it just is limited to how enjoyable life will feel.
Yeah, there was a few points there where I was kind of chuckling to myself and really resonating. Being a man myself, knowing that I can have the information in my head, but even sometimes just putting it into practice, softening with my wife or with other people can be so difficult because I wasn't taught how to do that. And that, really takes practice and embodiment. So I love that. I was also wondering, so you were a tradesman and now you're a relationship coach. You mentioned a divorce. Like, what did you have to do to really step into that yourself? Like, what practices, what trainings, what mentors? Like, what have you had to do to shape who you are today?
The first thing because we're so good, and I'll speak for myself, we're so good at defaulting to logic. What's the thing? Like, what's the thing? What's the practice that will create the result that I'm looking for? That drove my bus for 13 years. The podcast, the information, the books, the retreats, the Tony Robbins audio sets, the live events, and I was still miserable. So to answer this, I almost need to tell the story of how the divorce happened.
Okay.
For 7 years of our marriage, we were together for 7 years. I focused so much on personal development. I was convinced if I just become a better man, I'll have everything I want. The freedom, the satisfaction of me being able to meet my wife emotionally, and we would just live, a beautiful life. It didn't matter how much I learned. It wasn't what I felt in my body. It wasn't what I was experiencing in my marriage. There was a disconnect. I could feel it. She was there. We would sit next to each other on the couch, but we felt miles apart and I couldn't figure out why. I had no idea. It was so confusing and frustrating. I would ask her regularly, hey, is there something I can't see? Is there some sort of blind spot that I have? What could I be working on that I can't see? And she would always tell me the same thing. Mike, you're perfect and amazing. Never change a thing. Being told that is so confusing because we weren't okay. And this is what's super important. There was a limitation of what we could experience in the relationship because there was two kids driving the bus. I call this adaptive child. Our adaptive children were the ones that were actually relating, underdeveloped brains in relationship and adulthood. So we didn't have the relationality to create intimacy. We just didn't have it. And so I lived in this for 7 years. In the beginning, we had it's just like big emotions and we loved each other. It was amazing. But fast forward 7 years, I was sitting in our living room on the couch and she walked in the door after a trip. And I was just scrolling through Netflix, numbing out. I didn't even know that is what I was doing, but I was just numbing out, self-soothing through stimulation. And she walked in the door and she looked at me and she said, Mike, I'm done. And at first I was confused. I'm like, what do you mean done? Done with what? Just completely
Yeah.
oblivious.
Uh-huh.
She said, I'm done with this marriage. I can't do this anymore. And then all of a sudden I started to feel. All of a sudden there was no being lost in my head or the stories I've told myself. I couldn't slow down the wave of energy that started to rush through my body. And it was panic. It was terror. It was overwhelm. And I got up and I walked into my kitchen and I collapsed into the fetal position and started crying like a little baby, saying the words, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And then something happened where for the first time in my life, it was almost as if I left my body and saw myself on the kitchen floor. And this is, some people would call it an awakening, or for me, I think awakening is just arriving into a higher perspective of what's actually true. And doesn't mean I just live in there forever. It's these moments of awakening that bring us into a higher state of evolution. For me, it was looking down and seeing myself and having an insight and an aha moment of, I'm not a 30-year-old man. I'm an infant in the fetal position, terrified of what just happened. And that was losing my primary attachment, losing my bond, losing the one that I loved the most. And then in that moment, I realized I was reliving the first day of my life, which was when I was separated from my mother at birth. I recreated my deepest fear. My deepest wound was being severed from the bond and the connection of my mother. And I was so afraid of re-experiencing that because it didn't integrate. My biology had done so many things to keep me safe so that I wouldn't re-experience it. And ironically, the thing we're the most afraid of, if we don't learn how to relate with the fear, learn how to integrate all that energy, we will recreate the biggest fear.
Uh-huh.
And I recreated it. And so to answer your question, I had to go through the initiation that life offered me, which is it brought me down to my knees and it took the thing away from me. I didn't have the luxury of finding some guide or mentor before it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
Some get initiated by actually being brought down to their knees and going through the dark night of the soul. And that was my path. And don't encourage it for other men who are actually seeking information. Find someone before the reckoning. It's way more gentle and compassionate.
Yeah.
But I got brought down to my knees, and for those next 2 weeks, I wanted to end my life. I couldn't handle the amount of emotions and feelings and reality that I had co-created. Now here I am alone and realizing, oh my God, I've been living in codependence. I pushed my friends away. I wasn't actually developing myself in a way that was more relational, that would bring me everything I wanted. And then it brought me into a place of shit, I can't do this on my own. I've put in the good college try for 13 years, reading all the books, the podcasts, the things. It's not working. And so I had to actually soften into the part of me of, God, show me someone that can help me. And it was the first time I opened up into a place realizing I needed help. And I think it was within 2 days of that. I met my first mentor, spiritual coach, soul coach is what he called himself. And he brought me through the same experience I bring my clients through, because he gave me a felt sense experience of a relationship that I longed for, that I didn't even know I needed. And it was through the medium of that relationship, I started to feel more of myself come online. I was able to integrate my past. So it wasn't the next tool. It wasn't the next practice. It was being in a relationship where I could integrate my life, where I could process the energy and the emotions in a place where I wasn't called too sensitive or shamed or criticized or quit being a pussy, like just get over it.
Yeah.
Which so much of our culture and toxic masculinity does. And so I got to experience a man that I would say was in his gentle power. And it created an environment for me to actually move through my stage of development in a way that was frozen and stuck because of the culture I was in. And then all of a sudden, I remember feeling this inspiration rush through me of, oh my God, life is feeling really good. Oh my God, I'm starting to love myself. And then I would ask, like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And he would just chuckle. Because it's not about the practice, it's not about the thing. When we're in a situation, if you and I, Bryce, have relational resonance, if there's attunement to each other's experience, we will evolve. We will go into a place of, oh, I want to offer this thing to you because I'm feeling so met in what you're offering me. And there's this reciprocity that starts to organically happen because in nature, right relationship is reciprocity. But culturally, we've been giving the message of, which so many men are stuck in, is hyper individualism, the accolades and the rewards of do it yourself. Like,
Yeah,
the
totally.
hero's journey, like just learn another thing and
Right.
just show them how great you
Yeah.
are by
That
proving
that
them all wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, that the hero's journey is a very individual journey. I mean, you find what do they call it in the hero's journey? People that go along with you, but yeah, it doesn't appear as relational. The focus is on the one person and not the supporters and the connection. Yeah.
But then if we actually, to follow that, if we really go into all these beautiful archetypal stories that are laid out through movies, if we actually look at it, every hero, what happens? He meets a mentor. He meets some sort of guide that has moved through some sort of lived experience that has a higher level of consciousness and then holds that person who feels weak, scared, insecure, and alone, holds them with presence for them to move through into a place of believing their own power they didn't even know they had.
Yeah, usually
Doesn't,
it's some chill older guy. Yeah, even
yeah,
if they're kind of inconspicuous. Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to say it's not that often that this happens, but I actually did get chills when you said I don't want to die. You were telling that story about crawling up in the fetal position and man, I just love that story. There was something else you said. You're like, I don't recommend doing that men like wait this long, essentially is what you were kind of saying, right? What would you say to someone who's like, okay, maybe I see that coming potentially. What advice might you give to a man that is like, okay, I don't want to wait? Or also, was there anything that you think you could have done differently? And I don't mean that in a yeah, I guess I'm thinking about like if you were even coaching yourself, what would you say to yourself, even though I realized you had to go through what you had to go through?
Thing that I didn't have modeled growing up that created the most amount of dysfunction in my adult life and even my before adult life was I had a family structure where the message was we don't ask for help. My dad had a really small network of humans, my mom a small network of humans. So the thing that I then attracted in my adult life was situations where I would just figure things out on my own. This is what's called imprinting. Whatever experience we are basting in while we're developing will attract as the opportunity to transcend that constellation into the life that we are wanting to live. We could, this is the place of awakening or potential that we all have inside of us. We have to transcend the constellation that we're already in. So I'm sharing all this because what I didn't have modeled was the thing that I needed the most. If I had a dad that reached out for help and support, what would have been alive in my nervous system is when things get hard, I reach out for help and support,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. I didn't know that there would be a wise investment to go and learn about relationship. I didn't know that. So the thing that I needed was somebody to come into my sphere to awaken me into Mike, dude, you need to learn about relationship. Like,
Yeah.
you need to be mentored in this place because this is going to be your life's biggest struggle. Like if I had a dad who was really attuned to my experience, and this is no judgment on my dad, God bless, I love my dad, beautiful heart, but limited because of the trauma that he had and the
Uh-huh.
isolation that he was living in. So many men live in isolation thinking that that's great, I don't have to deal with all that. That's avoidance. I didn't have a dad that could tell me, Mike, dude, man, you've been adopted twice in the first year of your life. We're doing our best as your parents. This is what I call good father energy. I would have needed to be given this message of wisdom of, dude, it's going to be a hard journey for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to struggle in relationships and you're probably going to run away from relationships when things are starting to feel really good because for you, intimacy is scary.
Yeah. That was actually another thing that I caught. You said you were taken from your mother, and I didn't know if you just meant the temporary time, the time that you were taken away in the hospital, but so you were adopted
I
from
was
birth?
adopted twice in the first
Right.
year of my life. So separated from my biological mother day one,
Okay.
and then my biological mother. So I went into an orphanage for a little bit. And then my biological grandmother adopted me, but then she got diagnosed with terminal cancer. So she had to find a family to adopt me. She wasn't
Wow.
sure how long she would live. So when I was 14 months, she had found, and God bless my grandmother, because this is what I feel has given me enough resource to navigate the trauma that, I've had to work through in this life and continue to, is she gave enough of the good mother energy, which is she wouldn't let me go back into the system. She chose a private adoption and she chose a family from her perspective with enough resource to raise me so that she could stay in my life as long as she was alive. And so she ended up living till I was 5.
Wow. So, and then the father that you're talking about, was that your biological father that came into the picture later, or was this an adoptive father?
Yeah, his name was Skip. He was my adopted father. So the
Okay.
father I grew up with, the father that raised me.
What were your parents like? If you don't mind me asking,
Yeah.
yeah, I like that you use the term limited when you're talking about, especially people of an older generation, because they just didn't have the information that we have now and the opportunities. But how would you describe your parents?
My parents really loved each other. And my dad died in 2016, so he's not here anymore, but my mom and dad really loved each other, and I'd say they both had really tough childhoods, and that limited their capacity to live adult relationship. My perspective is they lived a very codependent relationship and didn't know how to resource outside of the relationship
Hmm.
to create a thriving connection, a thriving marriage, and to have that overflow into how they held the roles of mother and father. My mother was very Catholic. She grew up, and I'm just trying to feel if she would be okay with this piece being shared. She grew up in a tough childhood.
Hmm.
She wasn't treated well, and she found the church very young. 14, she sought it out herself. And that was her saving grace. And that was the thing that she showed up in. And so I grew up in a Catholic environment, and I'd say very parallel lives. What I describe here is there's some people that live parallel lives in relationship. So under the same roof, but really don't actually know and understand each other deeply.
Uh-huh.
They're just going through the motions and the actions, and everything's okay. It's good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you were to ask the deepest, most intimate questions about their life and what is meaningful to them and their memories and their childhood, I often don't know.
Right.
And so my parents lived very parallel lives. My dad did his thing. He watched the news and read books and drank. And then my mom went to church and carried the household. Honestly, she was the breadwinner. She worked her ass off. She cleaned. She did the cooking mostly. And my dad was very passive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
getting the sense maybe that you didn't see much conflict happening because of the parallel lives.
There wasn't, and it's so interesting, this terrain of conflict. It's nuanced. I would say large conflict between the two of them. No, never saw it. It
Mhm.
was all behind closed doors. But the conflict that I saw and I based it in was very avoidant
Mm.
relationship. I didn't see my parents kiss once. I didn't see them hug. I didn't see them cuddle on the couch. They were always in their separate seats. And so the conflict that I witnessed was just very disorganized, disconnected, not in allyship, not working through things together, not having conflict in front of us, and then us being given the experience that I think every kid needs is how they move through it, and that it does repair and goes back into respect and reverence for each other. I think that's every person needs to have that experience to know how to do relationship. And if that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
it's like that's the ultimate devastation, because the thing in this terrain that we're talking about, Bryce, is when it comes to relationship, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to being a man and masculinity, it's never a me problem. It's always a we problem.
Hmm.
Because when we're bonded and connected, which is our biological need, when we're connected, we can be with hard feelings. We can go through the hard seasons of life that we can't control. But if we're in isolation, if we're just in a place of self, that's where life is scary. That's where our feelings are overwhelming. That's what leads to people wanting to commit suicide is there's so much belief that there's no one out there to grab onto that people do horrible things, drug
Yeah.
addicts, suicide, all the things. But
Yeah.
the ultimate invitation that we're always being invited into is let's learn how to be in the we.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. Our enlightened self-interest is in learning how to tend to the sacred we space. The more we can relate well, every other area of life thrives. The most expensive pain point in anyone's life is always disconnection.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give people a sense, because I know this might be esoteric for some, of what like a we space looks like, feels like what would someone be looking at? I don't know if you have a community in your area or maybe it's virtual, but like what does this we space look and feel like so people can understand?
Yeah, I love it. So when I'm talking about we space, what I'm talking about is that if you want a thriving marriage, and thriving could look like really good sex, like the intimacy strong, you feel seen and heard and appreciated and valued for the uniqueness of what you bring the relationship, and you have the capacity to do the same for your partner. When we're offering those ingredients, oh, we get inspired and excited to travel the world together, to take on hard things and to become parents. And that all happens if we know how to do the we. Now, the we practically is learning how to be in each other's care. So what I mean by this is in any relationship, but I'll talk about a marriage as the example here. Me being married to my partner, Courtney, means I am in life with somebody that has a lived experience that has imprinted her into how she experiences life. So her childhood has formed her into a belief structure, into how her body responds to certain stimuli, and the same for me. The we space is understanding we will both feel a lot better in our bodies if we understand this one thing. Our number one job and responsibility, our number one role and responsibility is to be in each other's care. I want to care just as much of what's happening for Courtney in her experience as my own. If I'm prioritizing both, if I'm taking personal responsibility for what's happening inside of me while also equally caring about her, what this will look like in the day to day is as we pass each other in the house, as we're doing the day to day things. And the Gottman studied this through something called the Love Lab, where they proved that the relationship that had the most success of longevity and enjoyment, the couples that went the longest, that were the happiest, were the ones that touched each other the most.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that. That's co-regulation. It gives the
Yeah.
nervous system these little micro cues of I'm here. Oh, I care about you. Oh, you're safe. That's just what our nervous system's taking in. It feel like, how good does it feel? And for those of you, some of you might be listening of, oh, my body contracts. It freaks the hell out of me when I get
Yeah.
touched. Well, great information, because there's some attachment wounding to work through with someone, so that you can go back into the biological nature of we will want to be touched. We will want closeness if we have integrated our past. And so the sacred we space is slowing moments down that feel intense. If Courtney's triggered, it's me noticing, oh, something happened for her there. I'm going to slow down and I'm going to breathe and I'm going to anchor myself. Am I present? Yeah, I'm good. I got resource here. Hey, sweetie, God, something just happened there. It's me slowing down. And this is a good one for men. It's 3 times slower than you want to move
Yeah.
naturally. The feminine needs, she's feeling oriented. So being in each other's care, nurturing the we space looks like me noticing the shift, not taking it personal, turning towards her, turning my shoulder so I'm not directly facing her, knowing her nervous system's in some sort of threat response. So it's been proven if we just turn on an angle a little bit and just not direct eye contact and slow, The nervous system will feel safer going and putting my hand on her back and then rubbing her back, looking into her eyes and being like, hey, my sense is the tone that I just used there maybe brought something up. Are you feeling scared? Am I reminding you of your dad? And often it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. And then that responsibility, that acknowledgement helps her then soften, helps her receive the ingredients of presence so that her system can feel, oh, he is responsible for the power that he has. Oh, he
Hmm.
knows that that impacts me. Oh, he cares about it. He's slowing down. And then both of us get to soften because how good it feels for me to be able to provide that. Every man is longing for that.
Yeah,
The
totally.
experience to go, like every man, especially if you're a man listening to this, I know you care deeply.
Yeah.
That's why you're trying to learn more intellectual information so that you can hopefully go and provide what your partner is looking for and longing for so that she can feel emotionally fulfilled by your energy, by your presence, by your behaviors, because how good it feels when we do that well.
Yeah.
That's where we feel like a king. That's where we feel rich is, oh, I did it.
Yeah, I'm reflecting on, some of these times when, I mean, maybe it was me that triggered my wife. Actually, it probably most often is because we live together and see each other the most. But even
Yeah.
if it wasn't, just being able to recognize that something happened for her and to slow down and literally be like, I got this one. I'm gonna stay with her. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna validate. Like we can work through this and then actually following through and doing it feels so good. It helps me feel so confident in me and our relationship. It doesn't happen every time. Sometimes it takes longer, but yeah, I don't know anything better than that. I've tried some drugs in my life and like holding space for my wife until she feels like really safe with me and wants to come cuddle up on the couch is the best drug ever.
Yeah, man, say more about that. What is it that you get for yourself when you're able to provide that to her? What do you
Well,
feel?
I think it's, let me tune into that for a sec. Ultimately, I think it's connection, which I always thought I didn't really need much of that. But the more that I get it, and the more that I feel connected to myself and to knowing that there's a person in my wife who really, really trusts me and trusts me to protect her and hold her feelings, and who wants to step up and show up for me and do the same. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it, but I just know that it feels really good.
Yeah, so what's the feeling?
The feeling.
What feels, what's the sensation or the, when you say feels good, what does feel
Yeah.
good look like for you?
So right now I feel excited. I feel
Yeah,
inspired. Um,
bingo.
there are, I think when I'm imagining us on the couch, I do feel safe. I feel like my body is relaxed. And sometimes I don't even realize how tight I am until I relax. And so there's peace there. So I think, yeah, it's like a mix of peace, inspiration, excitement. Yeah.
Bingo. Getting chills, man. Thanks for answering that because that's what I want men to hear is what you end up getting offering that kind of presence. Because what you're describing is presence.
Mhm.
And that's what women are looking for. That's where, and this isn't gender specific. I speak men to women because that's my orientation. If you're in a different orientation, please, find your own placement here. But that's what the feminine in all of us is looking for is presence in another so that we can be guided into that place where it feels safe to be there. Because feminine essence is all about being. It's about receiving what's needed for that to be online is presence. And then when the presence is there and there's the exchange, the relational reciprocity of that energy, polarity, it leads to what you described. Oh, I relax.
Yeah.
Oh, feel a bit more peaceful. Oh, I actually now have the insight I wasn't relaxed.
Yeah.
That feels good to have that insight because what we're doing is we're actually dropping into a level of embodiment. It's what we're always being invited into. That's what feels the best is when we're in our body, present with our own experience. But so much of us don't even know we're living from a state of dissociation, numbness, collapse in the nervous system. And so we in our heads, we think everything's okay. It's incredible the amount of men that I've had sit in front of me at the beginning of our work and tell me, yeah, I don't know. I'm just here because my wife said that there's an issue. And if things don't get sorted out, she's going to leave. I think things are pretty good,
Yeah.
but they're so numb in their actual felt experience that they don't even know that they're living in contraction, that they're living in survival and aren't available for relationship. I don't even know. But what you just described there is the proof and the evidence when we can offer the presence, when we can receive it from another person so that we know how good it feels. It brings us into that feeling you described. Oh, peaceful. Almost
Yeah.
every man, I don't think there's a man out there that doesn't want to feel more peaceful,
Yeah.
that doesn't want to feel more relaxed.
Yeah. The
But
irony the
go ahead.
irony is that I do hear a lot of men, and I've even found myself doing this more earlier on, like they'll fantasize about living in a cabin in the woods by themselves. But I think it's because then I will feel relaxed. If I don't have to deal with other people's emotions, then maybe if I'm just like fishing and hunting and chopping wood, I'll be relaxed then. But it's probably the exact opposite of what we really need as humans.
It is the exact opposite.
Mhm.
And I've talked to those men on the mountains, and there's a lot of them that live where I live in this community. There's a lot of deep meditation and solitude. And I'll tell you, the evidence is always the same. It's pure misery. And they use marijuana to numb out how distressing it is to live in isolation.
Mhm.
This is why in jails they have, the isolation chambers. Is It's
Right.
torture. Doesn't mean we can't find peace in it, but it's not how we're biologically designed. So why choose it? We don't, there's no reward that comes from the end of living through life isolated. Like, oh, I did it.
Yeah.
You're going to be on your deathbed miserable that you have no one there to help you through the transition, to talk about your life, to ask about the things that you've learned, to pass them down. Think of the richest experience of your life. Almost guarantee someone is involved with whatever those memories are, where it was safe, where you felt attuned to, where there was some sort of shared exchange or connection. Doesn't always have to be a person. Sometimes it's Pachamama, the great mother, and it's nature, but still a relationship to something you can feel. Almost every rich moment in a human's life actually has nothing to do with money. It's the felt sense of being safe and connected to something.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And even if I've had like I was just thinking about that as you said it, because I had a few moments pop up where I was with myself and they were really powerful. But the thing that I wanted to do with that was to go tell people and like connect with them about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was still about others and feeling connected. I did have kind of a tangential question, but I don't know if you track any of this, but I felt somewhat concerned in the way that I see some men leading men's groups. I don't know if they call it like the manosphere now, or like I don't know, there's these different methods that men are using, and the easiest way I describe it is like being shamed into being a better man, basically, or something. Like go to train with Navy SEALs and they'll beat the shit out of you for 4 days. A friend of mine actually went and actually got injured in one of these experiences and told me about it. But like, what's your take on that? Why is that happening? Maybe why is that not helpful? And also, do you follow that much?
Yeah, one of the earlier like male cultures that I felt curious about, that I was inspired by, is Garrett White, the warrior.
Yeah, 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 yep.
And I read his book. I was curious, but something in my body wouldn't let me go deeper. There's just something off about it. Now, all these years later, I've been a part of men's work for 10 years and intimately relating with men's work in a different setting. I feel there is something about that culture that is deeply perpetuating to the patriarch. I think I call it alpha culture. Alpha culture that is very yang and yeah, like fucking toughen up, bro. Like, let's
Uh,
do this. Business, body, being, fuck yeah.
yeah,
They're like great. That's, what I would call that is warrior energy. And it's a part of being a man. And I think that sphere a lot of men need. A lot of men may be emotionally resourced off of by their mother, is one place that I see this, where they are overly sensitive because they didn't get the space to mature into their emotional sphere. And so they need things just right. And so, yeah, they need to practice a little bit of, hey, man, We're going to do this hard thing, but I'm here with you. And there's brotherhood that's going to hold you through it. But we got to learn to toughen up this place because it's fucking your life up.
Uh,
Yes, that part's needed.
mhm.
But I'd say alpha culture is super damaging because it's actually being, from my perspective, a lot of it, not all of it, some of it is being fed from a place that is so afraid to own and acknowledge that there is weakness inside.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
there is a tender heart in there that does need things to go really slow, that needs, certain level of gentleness and warmth in order to learn how to fully feel safe in the world. So there's this swing, and I know because I lived it. I was all for alpha culture. And you know what? Instead of the dream I was sold, which is I'm going to have everything, I'm going to have money, the relationship, all the things, you know what I had instead? Depression, a drug addiction, and a divorce.
Uh-huh.
So bro culture, alpha culture didn't work for me.
Yeah. Do you think it works for some people? Because I mean, there's testimonials. I mean, like, and maybe it just works in a way, or maybe it's temporary before the residual blockage builds up. Or I already probably know what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
I'd say the men that are integrated enough, the men that have gone through initiation in their own lived life and just need to be in an environment where there's that stimulus of warrior energy. Yeah, men will thrive in it. Like when I'm in the men's work that I'm a part of, I love in the arc that we do, this goes off of Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette's work, The King Within, or there's another book, The Four Archetypes, which is there's the lover, the warrior, the magician, and the king. And what they describe in that book is every man needs to be able to surf all four of those energies. A fully integrated man, a fully initiated man is a man who can touch in and choose when to be in lover, choose when to be in warrior, choose when to be in magician, and choose when to be in king or sovereign energy. I'd say the men that thrive and do well in alpha culture are the men that maybe are already well integrated in lover, magician, and king energy. They've just been missing the warrior energy. And
Hmm.
so for them, what they're evolving into is, oh, this is refreshing. Ah, yeah, we can do hard shit here. And there's going to be so much a man will step into in himself that will feel really good. And if I joined, Garrett White's program and we're doing the Navy SEAL stuff all dressed in black, you know what? I'd love it. But if I lived there, I would wither because so much of my unique journey is I need to be in proximity to men that are practicing gentle power, which is learning how to embody inside what I call good mother energy, which is actually bringing in more compassion, patience, and grace to the underdeveloped parts. There's a lot of men that have had severe trauma, neglect, abuse. You can't bro them through their trauma. You can't alpha them through or intellectually punish them or shame them into integrating the level of abuse that they've had. You're actually just perpetuating. A lot of men will enter spheres like that and actually just perpetuate the trauma even deeper because it perfectly matches the abuse and the alpha energy they got from their dad.
Uh-huh.
And so not right environment, not attuned to what that man needs. I'd say, some men actually need to be in a place where they practice sitting in a sharing circle. This is lover energy, and ours, that's the first round of the evening, is we all sit and we open and we share vulnerably. That's the
Uh-huh.
practice. And then, learning how to expose fear and the things that we hide and are afraid to be exposed. And we learn how to be in that. And then it helps integrate the part that actually needs more care.
Yeah, I've heard these archetypes before, and I think I understand them pretty well, except magician. Can you say more about magician?
Yeah, magician energy is this part of us that can alchemize generational wounding. So it sounds like, if you've never heard that, you're like, what the hell are you
Hmm.
talking about, Mike? Every single one of us has what I call sacred material to transcend. We're all wounded. Every human being is wounded. If you are in your mother and you left the womb of your mother, you are now on this rock hurling through outer space that's intense, that's full of war and death. And guess what? Leaving the safety of your mother's womb
Yeah.
is damaging and it's terrifying. And if your mom and your parents were really well attuned, you will have integrated the vulnerability of that wounding, and you will feel empowered and inspired and do amazing things in the world using your God-given gifts. Yay, that's the aim. But if you didn't, you're full of wounding, which means you're full of coping strategies to avoid feeling the wounding. And so magician energy is about doing the descent into self and the lived experience, and where the body keeps the score of all these energies and feelings and beliefs about self and other. And the magician energy is about descending into that part of ourselves to help integrate what we've already lived.
Yeah, it sounds like somewhat maybe more a mystical side. Would you agree with that? Or
For sure, there's a mysticism to it because it's the energy of magician. It's magic. It's watching a man do his work, and quote unquote, this is work. This is shadow work. Shadow, another way of looking at shadow, is it's the part of us that is challenged. It's the part of us that we may know the information, but we can't seem to launch the business. We can't seem to hold space for our partner. Can't seem to be kind and compassionate to ourselves when we make a mistake. Shadow is that part of our human experience. It's where we can't fully show up in the way that we know we probably should. That's shadow. And so if we go and we integrate the shadow and build a relationship with that place, what it does is it creates capacity in our nervous system. It creates a reservoir of resource that we can then now bring up and out into life. And so every human being has areas and themes of their life where they have three things. They have shadow, they have gifting, and they have, and this comes from the gene keys, something called acidic frequency, which is just our most enlightened version of self. It's the essence of what's possible in our awareness and our experience. We can't skip any of those. We actually have to deepen into the relationship of our shadow and not run from it, not hide it. And if we can do that, which is magician work, we will transcend into our God-given gifts. That shadow, that wounding will become our greatest gift. Practical example is me. I used to be a plumber. Like, it makes no sense. I'm a relationship coach that makes like 6 times more than what I made in the trades industry, serving people in the relational sphere and how to, connect deeper to themselves. That makes no logical sense, what I'm doing in my life right now, based off of the life I had. But I've done my work and I've built a relationship to my shadows, and I will forever do that, because as I do that, it unlocks my potential. It brings me into the felt sense of what my God-given gifts are and the clarity of the direction to take it. So my deepest wound, if we go back to my story, is severed from my bond with my mother. And then my next primary attachment, which is so deeply connected that my body still remembers, was my grandma. Then that was severed. So overwhelming for my nervous system. It's created such a mess in my relational world. So much insecurity and inadequacy and, just a lot. And it's become me learning how to relate with that weakness that lives in me, which I do. Like, if I really connect with somebody, I know I'm going to have moments of insecurity and like, oh God, if I do this thing, they'll go away. And I have to learn to love that part of myself, expose it, talk about it, share. And when I do, guess what? It doesn't scare me. Guess what? It's received well. And then that actually builds out the trust in the relationship. And then they share the parts they're scared about. And then we deepen in what's called intimacy. Intimacy is the strength and the courage to embrace and expose the messiness of our human experience and the capacity to receive that in another and not go away.
I like that.
That's intimacy. And so the more that I can go into that experience of myself, I can transcend the shadow and bring the ripe gold. And they talk about this in Iron John, another great book for you men to tune into. It talks about the journey and the evolution of man. And part of it is, going in and gathering the gold that the little kid inside of us has. Every wounded little boy inside is actually holding the greatest gift to the world. Our deepest wounding is our greatest medicine to the world, because it's our sacred walk to integrate it, to transcend it, to not be afraid of it. Because if we can do that, guess what? We now have the quality of confidence to meet somebody in that same place where they're at where they haven't built that relationship, and we get to be so present and secure and there and offer them exactly what they're needing because we've gone through it. We know what's needed. It's in the exchange and the receivership of that God-given gift of overcoming that challenge, that shadow, that feels so good for the one giving it and the one receiving it. When we talk about men so much are looking for purpose and mission, there's no greater mission on the planet than getting to know what your deepest wound is and turning towards it and harvesting the gold that's inside, because that actually is your North Star to the greatest gift you have to offer humanity. And it's in the receiving of that gift where you will feel the satisfaction, the excitement, the relief, the relaxation, because that's what life is inviting us to do, integrate our lived experience so that we can bring our medicine to the world. And there's not a person out there that doesn't have a really valuable medicine to bring, but we have to be able to integrate.
I love that. I was finding my attention moving to your wife and curious, or maybe you're not married, your partner, Courtney,
Yeah.
um, and how she got into this work. If you could say a little bit about that, because you're a duo and you do a lot of your work together, it sounds like.
Yeah, God. Courtney is my earth angel. She is somebody I prayed for. I didn't know that I needed. She found the work. Like I kind of joke. I think she's just the age of her soul. She's old and wise. She showed up with a mission. And when I hear her stories of her childhood, she knew what she was here for at a very young age,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of trauma in her environment. But what it led her on the path of is uh, getting her master's in social work. So by the age of 19, she was already in her trade. She's, got a long resume: somatic therapist, family constellations, crystalline consciousness, pre and perinatal, just the long list. Anyways, she started young. At the age of 19, 20, she was the woman that would be in the ICU at the hospital and holding the mothers that just lost their child.
Mhm.
She'd be holding, really severe situations where it was often death and mutilation. She would hold the people in their emotions around that. And that's where she started. And her journey just continued into working, from in the hospitals to working with teens who were struggling with addiction and cutting and suicide. And then it's evolved over the years into this place where we're so passionate. And that is, coupleship,
Yeah.
evolutionary relationship, because we know that the very root of all that dysfunction and all the trauma and all the thing actually comes back to mom and dad. If mom and dad are good, if mom and dad are resourced and tending a bond, there's so much overflow. Like you talked about earlier, Bryce, when you built that strong relationship to yourself, you wanted to go and bring it to the connection. You wanted to go share it with somebody. You wanted to go connect. That's what will happen. So if mom and dad are really bonded and tending it well, they'll have an overflowing resource and capacity to attune to what perfectly 100% dependent kiddos are needing while they're developing, which will give them an experience of I'm safe, I'm enough.
Uh-huh.
It's like so appropriate to feel weak sometimes and need help and reassurance and to feel soft skin on my face. And that will set them up so well to go out into the world and just be in their God-given gifts and not to have to do so much shadow work to get to know what the gifts are, because it will have been reinforced. It'll create emotional maturity. Practically, there will be more coherence in how their brain works. All hemispheres will be working together, not fragmented. Somebody who isn't functioning from a wise adult place they're just more in survival. Their brain isn't communicating well. So Courtney is, a lot of her work is stemmed from being so clear in what she wants to see in the world. And that is that we're all in this together, that we're all brothers and sisters, that, we're creating a place for it to be safe and enjoyable, and then allyship. And she had to go through a whole initiation herself to get to a place of learning the skills, the language. God, she was in her early 20s when she was asked to be a professor at the university and teach
Yeah.
what she had just gone through, because she's so embodied in it and people feel that. And so that's a bit of what her journey's been. And then when we came together, both of our dharma, both of our things we had individually written out and wanted to be a part of came clear. And then that's what birthed the sacred we and what we live.
Yeah, that's cool. And we have a lot of similarities, you and I, and I do feel like I'm trying to catch up to my wife a bit. Part of that is she's 9 years older than me. So there's that, I think, but also just maturity wise, I'm like, it's nice to have a partner who I think really is so emotionally mature and embodied that I'm like, it challenges me, I think, in a good way. And yeah, my wife is worked in the clinical field for a while as a marriage and family therapist. And um, yeah, it just seems like she's always been meant to do what she's doing now versus like I wasn't totally sure what the hell I was doing for a lot of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, which I love that you're saying that, Bryce, because this actually highlights something that is just true. Feminine is designed to be the one tending the relational space. Women have something called diffuse awareness. This comes from Alison Armstrong's work. They don't focus. They can't. They have diffuse awareness. When we go back in history, they were the ones that would be making sure Johnny's not too close to the fire, because if he falls in, that'll be a disaster. And checking what time of day it is and what season it is and what thing, what berry is, about to fruit, so that she can go and gather that. And are the men kind of connected and doing their thing to make sure that meat's coming in? And, they're constantly tending. How's everything going? Is everything
Yeah.
okay? Because that's what actually is the glue to a healthy village. A healthy village is the women embodied with the gift that they're given, that is making sure what's going on here. Like, are we doing well? Because if we're not doing well, guess what? That impacts presence to what's out there that is unpredictable. Tiger coming in. If we're sitting here having some relational rupture and a tiger comes in, guess what? Someone's going to die.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Whereas the woman is designed, wait a minute, that's not okay that we're not okay. We're going to go see the therapist. We need to do this. You need to
Yeah.
go, do some work and get some help. And women are all, that's how it's expressing in today's time. And so thank God they have that part, and they are meant to initiate us. Like, what I'm hearing is, I'll use my own words. Courtney has initiated me so many times into the man that I'm meant to be, because she can stay in her backbone and feel the places where things feel off in her body and say the hard thing, call me out, name where she doesn't feel safe. That's my initiation. I could go into defense strategies and project all over or gaslight or do all the things to make it bad or wrong, but it's not going to help my evolution. But then I'd also say we initiate them,
Yeah.
because our role is different. And what I can only imagine, I already can feel it, and I know you offer this to your partner. You are a man doing his work, and you get to offer over presence so that she can keep emerging into the part of her that is forever changing, the part that's unpredictable, the part that's on clear path. And you receive the beauty that she offers. You be able to acknowledge the reverence for her uniqueness and what she has, invited you into it. I'm just imagining, if I'm
Yeah.
off, tell me.
Yeah. Well, it's good timing. She actually just finished a couples retreat 1 hour before our call.
Oh, wow.
And my job was just all the back end stuff, the food and some management. And yeah, she's just doing her work. She's down there with the ladies, and I'm like, yeah, I got you in the background. And so that she can just relax and do her thing. So I don't know if that's exactly what you're saying, but we just had this experience where I was like, Jen, don't worry about a fucking thing. Like, you gave me the duties and I will get it done. And you just do whatever you do with them. And it was really beautiful, and it was a great experience.
And that's it. And how it's always going to express in a unique way, because every relationship will have a different dynamic and a different mission. And that's it. It's like the presence to be in the role of partnership.
Mhm.
So what I'm hearing is she can go and do her thing and not have to be in the distress of, am I okay? God, is, oh, this and that. But if you come in and you offer providership, which is what women are looking for, providership, protection, emotionally,
Mhm.
spiritually, intellectually, when they feel that support there, they can do their mission. They will do the thing that wants to birth from their heart through their feelings. And then guess what? I imagine she'll come back, and then you guys talk about it, and it's so
Yeah.
exciting and it's celebratory. And this comes from, Gay Hendricks, is a mentor of mine, and he described it through working and supporting couples for years and years and years, thousands of couples. And he really highlighted that every relationship could be put into one of three areas: toxic relationship, learning relationship, or celebratory. And when we get into a situation, we're in celebratory relationship, which is in service to each other's evolution, to the passions, to how life wants to be experienced. It's celebration on both sides.
Yeah.
It feels so good. There is an exchange and a knowing of the difference. There is an understanding how to dance with the difference, how to appreciate the difference, how to tend and nurture the difference. And
Is
there's no sweeter thing.
yeah. Did he write Transformation Through Intimacy? Is that Gay Hendricks?
That one, I'm not sure. Him and his partner, Katie, they've written 40 books.
Okay.
The one that I like really lean into is Conscious Love. Yeah. Conscious Love. That's a really sweet one, but yes, he may have written that too.
Okay. Yeah, that's my wife's favorite book that she recommends to everyone. The name sounded familiar. Okay, Mike. Well, I've been really enjoying our conversation, and I think maybe from my busy morning, I feel myself wanting to move to food and getting outside and stuff. So, is there anything else you'd want our audience to know about you and what you offer? I was also curious if you do anything in person or if it's all virtual. I know you're up in Canada, or if you travel for some of that. But yeah, anything that you'd like to share before we close up here.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks, Bryce, for having me. And for anyone who's tuning in, the thing that I'll just encourage before I go into my offerings is, there might be a resonance for me. There might be a resonance to Bryce. There might be a resonance to some other man. My encouragement for you is, if you're in a place that's not feeling so great, if you're not feeling the peace and the relief and the relaxation, turn towards somebody to experience mentorship from, so that you can save the life that you have left to live in a way where it's really enjoyable, because it's meant to be enjoyable. Now, I love working with men who are ready for that plunge, so I do some in person, I do VIP days. And another way that I work with men, and this is where the deepest transformation happens currently, before I launch what's called the Initiated Man, which is an online group offering. I work with men intimately one-to-one in a 6-month container. And so if you're interested of exploring that, you can hop on a call, and then we would just explore where you're at, if there's a resonant fit. So, I'll send you the links and you can put it down in the show description. And then just a free offering for anyone listening. I've got something that's the masculine feminine polarity cheat sheet. I find it's one of the richest things that you can just print, slap on the fridge. It sparks conversation, and it just shows the qualities between masculine and feminine energy. And we have that, each of us, inside. And the more that is understood and brought into relationship, that's the thing that creates the sweetness. That's what creates the charge in the relationship, is when things are in right polarity, which is always changing and shifting. So you can go click on that link. It pops you also into my newsletter, and then just all my offerings that come out will show up there.
Cool. I'll put your links on there in the description, Mike. Yeah, I'm just feeling into any final words I have. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. There's a part of me that wants to connect with you after this in some way. So, we can correspond if you're open to something like that. I just really like talking to you, man. And there's a lot of similarities too, which was kind of strange. And I'm glad that you reached out to connect.
Yeah, appreciate it, Bryce. I feel that, and I would love to stay connected. I love the resonance, and the more men like us doing this work in relationship, it's the better it is for everyone, because this isn't the thing that's been modeled. So we get to model it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I actually I run a men's group, and then I have a peer men's group, and we're doing our first trip here in a couple months, and I'm super stoked about it. Central Utah, middle of nowhere. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I will see you next week.